Okay, let's talk about autophagy fasting because we have fast training week coming up next week. Depending on when you're watching this, we're on Thursday right now, and I always run my fast training weeks from the Monday through Friday. So we always do it in the week. So next Monday, we will start fast training week for December. So, and I've chosen autophagy fasting this time, and let me tell you why. In the month of December, many people are celebrating the holidays, and it's really easy to get off track as you get deeper into December with your eating, with your fasting, with a lot of your health habits. And last year at this time, I introduced to my resetter community autophagy fasting and the principles of autophagy fasting. And I had a group back then. We've got 25,000 people in the resetters now. Back then we had about 5,000 people, and it blew me away at the changes and the weight loss that was happening to people in the month of December when they applied the principles I'm going to teach you here. So I personally think for this month, if you have a busy schedule, if you're fully immersed in the holidays, that this is a fabulous fast to do at the beginning part of December, because you could really drop that other next layer of weight. It's going to, of course, give you great energy. It's going to get you into ketosis in a nice deep way. But then you just have a couple weeks after that of December to survive, and then we'll launch into January, where I've got some really fun fasting. I've got a new reset I'm putting out. We have a live event. So if you're looking to engage in something in January, stay tuned, because I have a lot of cool things for you so that you can really knock it out of the park in 2020 with your health. So, but let's talk about autophagy fasting. So there are really 3 principles to autophagy fasting that are key that you don't see in the other fasts. This is not as predominant in the other 7 fasts that I teach here on my channel. And so let me walk through these principles, because these are the ones that are going to help you drop the weight the most and are going to really help you become metabolically flexible. So principle number 1 is that you want to fast at least 17 hours. So the sweet spot for autophagy, your body is going to detox itself the best, is somewhere between 17 and 72 hours. So I like, when we're training people to stimulate those autophagy benefits, I like to have you at least go 17 hours. So for some of you, you're going to be like, that's easy, I'm already doing that. For others, this is going to be a stretch from your 13 to 15 hour intermittent fast. So you're going to go 17 hours without food. Second key principle to autophagy is that you are going to keep your protein under 20 grams. So go back, I have a whole playlist on autophagy fasting, but one of the things that we know is that when you're eating a high protein meal, that you're stimulating mTOR. And mTOR is a building up pathway of our cells. So it's great if you want muscle growth. It's great when you're little and you're trying, we want to stimulate mTOR a lot when we're trying to grow in height. mTOR can be really helpful. But as we age, we actually don't want to stimulate mTOR as much, because it will cause cells to live and die much quicker, and it'll accelerate the aging process. So when you keep your protein under 20 grams, what it does is it signals to the cells to go into this autophagy state. Autophagy is opposite of mTOR. So think of autophagy as repair, self-repair. Think of it as detox. And think of mTOR as growth and muscle building. So you want to spend about 80%, depending on your age, but if you're over 40, you want to spend 80% of your time in autophagy and 20% of your time in mTOR. My new reset is going to go through that, so stay tuned, because I've got a cool way that I'm going to cycle you guys through that. So with autophagy fasting, we want you to go 17 hours without food. We want you to keep your protein under 20 grams, and you can do, unlike fast mimicking, you can do animal protein. Now, here's the trick that I know I'm going to hear from a lot of you, which is, Can I do butter in my coffee? Can I do cream in my coffee? Here's the trick with autophagy fasting. If you do butter and cream in your coffee, you need to make sure that you count the protein in your overall protein amount. We found when we first rolled autophagy fasting out to our community, we found that people were shocked at how much protein was in vegetables, like broccoli. Broccoli has one of the highest amount of protein content. A cup of broccoli has around 5 grams of protein. So when you're trying to stay under 20, that's a lot. When you want to put cream in your coffee, you're going to want to really either decide, okay, I'm going to eat veggies all day and the cream in my coffee will be, I'm just going to contribute to my protein amount. So you really have to start like picking the little pieces and making sure that you got to be detailed about that protein amount. And otherwise, you go the 17 hours and you do 22 grams of protein, you do 21 grams of protein, and the minute you go over that protein mark, you have now kicked yourself out of autophagy and you're starting to stimulate mTOR. Okay, so that is the one number that is crucial in autophagy fasting. One of the other major rules to autophagy fasting that we don't do in the other fasts is breaking your fast with fat. And this is not as crucial for getting you to stimulate autophagy, but it is crucial and helpful in training you how to go into these longer fasts. So when you go 17 hours without food, and then you break it with fat, like an avocado, nut butter, but you're gonna have to count that in the protein. Some people break it with ghee. You'll see we're gonna be sharing a lot of ideas next week about, olives. Oh my gosh, olives are an autophagy faster's dream because they have, and a fast mimicer's dream. They literally have no calories. They're all fat, no protein. So you want to break your fast with fat, and you'll see that there'll be a lot of ideas that we'll be throwing out in our community about that. So stay tuned. If you want to be in our active free resetter group, just put resetters. It's on Facebook, and you'll see all the different ideas that people are going to be using there. But what I found when I rolled this out last year was that they'd have a cup of olives, they'd have a half avocado. I like to do avocado with some sauerkraut on it. And then all of a sudden they can go 2-4 more hours fasting. So that fat was allowing them to extend their fast even longer. So we ask in the autophagy fasting, when you're playing that fast, you're playing the rules of that game, that you break your fast with fat and that you wait an hour. Try to wait about an hour before you eat anything else. Okay, so I want you to train you to understand that fat is your friend. Not only does it feed your brain, but it can really help you in these longer fasts. Another little trick, by the way, that I told a patient of mine yesterday who was really struggling to go 72 hours on a water fast. I told her, and she said at like hour 68, she almost crashed. And she goes, I was really craving a cup of bone broth. And I said, you know, if 72 hours, it's the first time you've done it, sometimes just a cup of bone broth will help you extend you into a whole nother 24 hours. So those are the kind of things we learn here in the autophagy fasting experience. So, and then of course you're going to want to know about carbs. So with the autophagy fasting, we keep carbs under 50 grams. And again, we're trying to not stimulate your blood sugar. So this isn't a high carb experience. It's not extremely low carb. Carbs don't have as much of an impact on autophagy as protein does. But I still want you guys to keep it down under 50. And the goal, again, with autophagy is to stimulate some self-detox. Many of you are going to drop more weight. If you haven't done autophagy fasting, it's a beautiful way to drop weight. The first time we rolled autophagy fasting out, I was shocked. In a 5-day period, we had people losing anywhere from 5 pounds up to 8 pounds in 5 days. So this is like, the autophagy fasting is one of the major principles of my women's reset, and how we get people to unstick them from weight loss resistance. So that's autophagy fasting. And then, of course, we'll be talking about other things like what other ways you can stimulate autophagy, like green tea. There's ways to do it with green tea. So we'll talk about that. And there are ways to do, there's foods like we've got a really cool challenge coming out. You can watch it on the community page here or on Instagram, where we're going to give you 3 ingredients that fit well into autophagy fasting and ask you to create a meal with these 3 ingredients. They don't have to, you can add some more ingredients in if you want, but it gives you some idea about some ingredients that stimulate autophagy. So stay tuned to our community page here and our Instagram community page for that food challenge, because that's going to be fun and a great way to interact as a community. So that's autophagy fasting, and it's one of my favorite fasts. So next week we will be doing that. If you want to water fast, you're always, every fast training week, always welcome to water fast. It's a good time if you need community support. As always with both these fasts, I really like if you guys use a blood sugar reader. My favorite is Keto Mojo. So just please don't enter into these longer fasts without knowing your blood sugar numbers, because you want to know, am I just having a detox symptom, or is my blood sugar too low? Are my ketones too high? These are really important principles that we teach in these fast training weeks. So
that also helps you figure out if something is breaking your fast. We're getting a bunch of questions about that already. About
what breaks your fast. Okay, yeah, I'll talk. So I'll dive into what breaks your fast here in a second. The other thing too, I just want to point out to you guys, as we approach 2020, one of my goals next year is to really help you customize a fasting lifestyle. So stay tuned to this channel, because I will be teaching you more and more about how do you build yourself a fasting lifestyle. I also, at our live event, the Reset Experience, I'm bringing experts in, and I will be teaching you exactly how to customize your own fasting lifestyle. So if you don't know about that event, it's on January 11th. It's a live event. Just put Reset Experience in the comments, and I'll make sure you get info. But let's launch into what breaks a fast. Let's talk about that for a moment. If you have the reader, you can really tell more quickly, more efficiently if something's breaking a fast. And it's very simple. I've done a video on it, but I'll reiterate it here. So how you know something breaks a fast is that it pulls your blood sugar, it raises your blood sugar up. And there are a lot of different theories about how high your blood sugar should go in order for it for you to be out of a fasted state. Here's the general rule that I like to use. You take a blood sugar reading, then you drink your cup of coffee, or you drink your whatever, or you chew your gum, you put your mouth freshener, whatever you're wanting to test. You drink it, eat it, do whatever, and then a half hour later you take another blood sugar reading. So that second reading, that number should be as close to the first reading's number. Now, some people believe you have a 10-point leeway that you can, as long as that doesn't go up 10 points, it doesn't take you out of a fasted state. I'm a little more of a purist in the sense that I just want to see those 2 numbers very close, like within 1 or 2 numbers of each other. One thing that I have learned is that when I eat fat, that my blood sugar actually drops, and some of you are going to learn that too. You're going to take your reading, you're going to get your buttered coffee, and then you're going to take your reading a half hour later, and you're going to see that your blood sugar went down. That would be fine. That would be awesome. So that's totally acceptable. But you really should test things that you're doing on a regular basis. Now, I want to add one more thing onto that there is pulling you out of a fasted state, and there is pulling you out of an autophagy state. So autophagy, again, is where your cells are detoxifying themselves. So in the absence of food, as the blood sugar comes down, the cells get a little trigger and they go, hey, no more food is coming in. So I think I better go and find some food that's inside the cell and let me live off of that so that I can survive. And that's what it does. It turns within and it starts to detoxify itself. Now, I don't know. We don't have enough research. We don't have a measurement as to whether buttered coffee, even if it doesn't stimulate your blood sugar. Let's say in that test I told you that your blood sugar stays balanced. We don't know what it does to autophagy. So in my book, I really keep things simple for myself. So during autophagy fasting, I do coffee, organic, mold-free coffee, but I don't put any cream or fat in it. That's just me. I try to keep it as pure as possible. So a lot of you ask, like, what about, again, chewing gum? What about Diet Coke? What about some other things? Again, those are things, anything that you're putting from the outside in during that 17-hour window, you risk the chance of it pulling you out of autophagy. And it's so beautiful that we can measure ketones and we can measure blood sugar. We don't have autophagy strips yet, but I guarantee somebody's going to make them at some point and we're all going to benefit from it. So I hope that helps with the breaking of the fast.
Great.
Okay, questions?
Yeah, Juan has a great question. He was first in with this question too.
Okay.
He's heard that the keto diet shortens your lifespan.
Okay, so I need more information on that, but basically Juan is asking, the keto diet shortens your lifespan.
And is it healthy in the long term?
Yeah, so let me answer that by rephrasing the question. Is the keto diet dangerous? Will the keto diet cause you any harm at any point along your keto journey? And the answer to that is that any diet can be a problem if you have no variation. If all you're doing is that diet over and over and over again, it's going to shorten your lifespan. It's going to harm your cells. This is why we're trying to create and teach you guys a fasting lifestyle here, because there are 7 different fasts that I see, and that we have 3 different feast days that I teach people how to participate in, and we have 3 different styles of variations of keto. But if all you did was 70-80% fat forever with 20% lower carbs forever, that would be dangerous. That would not be good. Now, the other place that the keto diet really falls short is if people who have congested livers. We see this all the time. How do you know you have a congested liver? You go on the keto diet and your hair falls out, you get a skin rash, you get bloated, you get constipated, you feel like the keto flu can be a detox, but it also can be a sign that the liver is congested, it's stuck, it can't process toxins out of it. It's your major detox organ. So we do a lot in my academy. I mean, I can't even tell you how many calls I've done in my academy on how do you uncongest your liver, because so many people enter into the keto diet with a liver that is functionally not at its best. And then they start adding in all this fat, their cholesterol goes up, they get constipated, their hair falls out. That's not great. That's not what we're doing this for. But the principles of keto, where you can add in low carb days, low protein days, and you can mix in hormone building days and high protein days, and you can mix in some feeding your microbiome. When you put that all together, now you're getting the magic of the keto diet. Now you're not getting stuck in a rut. Now you're actually doing the reverse, and you're slowing the aging process down. So let me know, Juan, if that helps. It's when we go to these extremes and we make these blanket statements, like I think that was an article that came out, was like the keto diet will speed up the aging process. And it's like anything done to the extreme, fasting to the extreme, supplements to the extreme, exercise to the extreme, anything is not great to the extreme. So, but it's much easier to say, oh, all I'm going to do is keto and stay in that lane, because diet variation, fasting lifestyle that I teach here has a lot of parts to it, and it takes time and repetition to understand.
A link between cold extremities in fasting, specifically they're asking autophagy fasting, but I think any kind of fasting.
Yeah, cold extremities and fasting, very common, especially in the beginning. So I've done a lot of fasting, a lot of water fasting, all different types. And I would say when I first came to the fasting world, that was really common to feel cold. So your metabolism is slowing down, your body. So when you have a fast metabolism, you tend to have more warmth. When you have a slower metabolism, you tend to be a little colder. So everything is slowing down in a fast. So yeah, you're going to feel a little more cold. Now, the more you do this, the less that happens. And it is an incredible repair for hormones. It's an incredible repair for metabolism. So hang in there. When I first started doing a lot of water fasting, I just always had a hat and I had a scarf like ready to go, and I just knew that I was going to be in for a little colder experience because I wasn't eating any food. So when you eat food, you start, your body is like, it's like putting logs in a fire, and all of a sudden, whoosh, you get like this burning of metabolism effect. But if you're fasting, you're not getting that. So it'd be like turning off the heat in your house. All of a sudden, you get cold. And once you eat again, you should be warm again.
Great. So this person wants to know they're confused about the protein intake under 20 grams.
Yep.
Autophagy.
Yep.
That will still keep you in autophagy, but what about a fasted state? So do you want to talk about why you call it autophagy fasting?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to hang in here with me for a second because I want you to understand the concept for yourself. With ketosis, there are two ways to get into ketosis. You lower your carbs, you moderate, or let's just say you manipulate your macros, and you fast. So a lot of people can get into ketosis just by skipping breakfast and doing intermittent fasting, but then they don't really change their macros, and they can still get into ketosis. So autophagy, same thing. There are two ways to get into autophagy. There is bring down your protein and fast. So with ketosis, there's no real guarantee as to how many hours you need to fast in order to get into ketosis. That's very individual. But with autophagy fasting, we know 17 to 72 hours based off research is the sweet spot to stimulate autophagy, and keeping your protein under 20 grams is also what you need to do to stimulate autophagy. So ketosis, you're more, some people, they fast and they lower all their macros and they still don't get into ketosis. That's a function of being metabolically flexible. So that's a whole nother principle to teach. We taught that last fast training week. But with autophagy, remember you're working with two pieces here to stimulate autophagy. So let me know if that helps.
And then Mary wants to know if you can do this as a vegan.
Mary wants to know if you can do this as a vegan. Yeah. Absolutely. We get the vegan question all the time. This is a great fast for a vegan. So you just got to keep your protein down. That's all. And if you don't do animal protein, that's fine. That's okay. You just are going to need to keep the protein down under 20 grams and the carbs under 50. So this can be a really easy fast for vegans. In traditional ketogenic world, they're keeping those carbs really low, like 20 grams. I call it low keto. And that can be difficult for vegans. But in autophagy fasting, we just need to keep the protein under 20. It can come from animal protein or not. It doesn't have to. And you need to keep your carbs under 50. So as long as you're fitting those two macros and you're fasting, any diet type can fast, you're going to stimulate autophagy. So this is a great one for you. Absolutely.
And you don't have to get up to those numbers. You just want to stay under.
Good point. You don't have to get up to those macros. So if you do 10 grams of protein, totally fine. If you're a low keto person and you're like, 50 grams of net carbs would be like a feast day, you can stay under that 50 if you want. So, but you do need to go 17 hours, at least 17 hours. If you want to go more than 17 hours, that's no problem. So great question, Mary. Thank you for asking it.
Okay. Keith is on a 30-hour. He's from Germany. We got people all over the world. We got a lot of people outside of the U.S. Where they're from right now.
Awesome.
Australia,
Yay! I
Germany,
love it.
Different parts of the planet.
Love it.
Some going into summer. You know, some are going in the middle of winter.
You're going into summer. I envy you as I sit here in my wool sweater.
But they're going to be looking more at things for hot weather, like shades, you know, so just be flexible with where you are.
Yeah, seasonal is interesting, and that's a whole nother video. But, you know, in the winter, here's an interesting thought, and I should do a video on this, is that think about in the winter time, we are primal. So we did not have, if we go back to the cave person day, we didn't have access to food like we do now. And so in the winter, we're actually meant to be in ketosis more. The human body is more designed to be in ketosis. So again, I'll use myself as an example. I can fast really well in the winter. In the summer, nature gives us more access to food. The days are longer. We are meant to eat a little bit more. So depending on where you are on the planet, if you're in summer or winter, take in that into consideration that you might actually find if you're in summer right now, it might be a little more difficult to fast than you've experienced in winter because the human body was designed for ketosis in the winter.
So Keith had a question. He's trying to lose weight, and he's also trying to heal a nagging sports injury.
Ah, good. Awesome.
He's already down 105 pounds, but he stalled out.
Okay.
So the stalling question.
Okay, great. So Keith, first off, let me congratulate you on all the weight loss. That's awesome. And how fun is it that you can do that on your own? And this is what I love about a fasting lifestyle. I also want to congratulate you on using fasting as a tool for healing a musculoskeletal injury. Absolutely, that is the best. And I would encourage you, if you haven't done a 3-day water fast or a 3 to 5 day water fast, that will help you do 2 things for you. One, it's going to help unstick you from weight loss resistance, and you get a surge of stem cells on that 3rd day that will help with repairing the musculoskeletal injury. I told this story, if you're new to my channel, you might have not heard it, but I had an Achilles tendon injury, and 2 years ago in January, I decided after trying everything with it, I was so frustrated, I just threw a 5-day water fast at it and gone, totally gone after that. So it hasn't to not ever return, and that was 2 years ago. So, but let's answer the question of how do you unstick yourself? Here's the strategy to unstick yourself, and it's really around the variation. And this, again, is very difficult for people to trust. I think that's the most difficult. So if you have been doing the keto lifestyle for a long time, one thing I would ask you, and I don't know your complete health history, is have you taken your protein as low as you're about to go in autophagy fasting? If you've been more in the keto camp and you're focused on keeping your carbs low but not your protein, just this one switch we're going to do in fast training week of bringing your protein down may be enough of a switch to start to get you dropping weight again. So the variation between the different fasts can really help, but you've got to vary the different macros, vary your protein, vary your carbs. You got to go low carb one day, and then the next day you go low protein, and then the next day maybe you go high carb, and then the next day maybe you don't eat. Maybe you go all day without eating. This is what our 15-day metabolic reset is all about. I take people through different styles of fasting and eating, and it's that in and out that really makes a difference. The Forever Young one in January will be another one where it's an 18-day reset, and every 3 days you're going to do some new style of eating and fasting that will also be an unsticker. So stay tuned for that.
And Noelle has exactly the opposite question.
Okay.
She doesn't want to lose weight. She's happily 50 years old, going through menopause. She wants to do longer fasts, but doesn't want to lose any more weight.
Okay. So if you don't want to lose weight, and if you're listening to this and you want to lose weight, here's what I would tell you: that shut your ears for a moment, because this is really for those people that don't want to lose weight. This next conversation. So Noelle, this is what the best way to look at this. You have an eating window and you have a fasting window. So when you wake up in the morning, make a decision. This is what my eating window, when I'm going to start eating, and this is how long I'm going to fast. So once you are done with your fasting window, so let's say it's noon, when it's time to eat, you got to eat. Like you can't this is not a time to really work on manipulating your macros. The first macro at your age, and if you're an athlete, that I would encourage you to eat more of is protein. So if a perfect scenario for a 50-year-old female athlete would be that you do about a 17-hour fast, try to do that every day, you're stimulating autophagy, and then when you open your eating window, now you're gonna raise your protein up to around 75 grams to 100 grams. I never think a high carb life over and over and over and over again is really great, but high protein can sometimes be really good for building muscle and for athletes in general. So when you eat. When you fast, great. You can extend your fasts, but you got to eat more during your eating window. And depending on where you are in the menopause process, you also want to lean into some hormone building days. So go back and watch some videos that I did on that. So
great. And we do have a question. We're at 30 minutes right now, so we have time for a few more.
Okay.
This is, can fasting help with a parasite infection? Do you want to talk about fasting and any symptoms?
Yeah, this is a great question. Again, I love coming to you guys live because you have very thoughtful questions. Can it help with parasites? So it can, for sure. There are two different styles of fasting I would do to help with any gut issue. And you may also need to do some what we call pathogen purging. So I just started coaching a patient who has SIBO, and we're going to lean into a lot of 24-hour fasts. So same thing for a parasite. At 24 hours, what we know from MIT research is that your intestinal stem cells get rebooted. So when those stem cells get rebooted, remember that stem cells are repair cells. So they start repairing the inner mucosal lining of the gut. Now, any pathogen, candida, viruses, E. coli, parasites, why they're thriving in your gut is because the environment, the terrain, the inside of your gut has made it really hospitable for them. They like hanging out there because the pH might be what they like. Maybe there's a lot of other bad bacteria in there. So when you splash in 24-hour fasts on a regular basis, and it's not 23 hours, it's at least 24 hours, what you're doing is over time, it's not going to be miraculous in 1 week, but over time, you're starting to change that terrain, you're changing that environment, and now that parasite is not going to thrive in there as much. Same thing with SIBO, same thing with candida. So definitely weekly 24-hour fasts. If you can do 2 to 3 days a week, great. And then I also really like splashing in some 3-day water fasts. That helps as well for any kind of pathogen. Now, if you're doing supplementation, here's what's really cool is you create this environment where these pathogens aren't really welcome anymore, and then you come in with some pathogen purging supplements, and boom, you're going to knock that thing down. So it will often take 2 or 3 different therapies, but fasting has to be one of them, absolutely, in 24-hour fasts.
Great. A comment on lower calories increasing lifespan. That's been something that's been out there for a while.
Yeah, lower calories increasing lifespan. I mean, this is what fasting in general is doing, is that because you're shortening your eating window, just logical consequence is that you end up minimizing your calories as opposed to if you're eating all day. And there's great studies on longevity and lower calories. So absolutely, I think that's why I say build a fasting lifestyle. Don't just go on a fast once. This is why we do the fast training weeks, is because it's the fasting lifestyle that's going to get your health to the level that you want, and it's going to tap into longevity.
Great. And we have a Debbie Scott who's coming to the Resetter Experience. So
awesome.
We're looking forward to meeting you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, if you're coming to the Resetter Experience, let us know. And Debbie, that's awesome. Please come up and introduce yourself. We love our community. We want to get to know you, so I'm glad you're coming.
And Amanda has a question about fasting and ovarian cysts.
Okay. Amanda, ovarian cysts and fasting. So, and this applies to any cyst, okay? A cyst is an inflammatory process. So when you start fasting, you lower inflammation. Tomorrow, I have a video coming out on dry fasting and all the incredible benefits and how to do it, because a lot of you have been asking me about that. So watch that video. You will see that there's incredible research showing that dry fasting will lower inflammation. So a cyst anywhere, you want to focus on the principles that lower inflammation. Fasting, all different types of fasting will do that. So play with the 7 different fasts and see what you like. Keeping your processed foods down. Hopefully you know this. Now, stop eating the junk, the bad oils, gluten. If you live in America, the way we grow gluten here is horrendous, and it's toxifying to the gut. It has a toxin in it called Bt toxin that destroys the microbiome of the gut, and then we spray it with glyphosate. This is why we have this massive health crisis here in America, because of how we grow our food. So get off of wheat, get off of sugar, get off the bad oils, and start fasting. Those 4 things should dramatically help the cysts. If they don't, come back on a live and let's chat. Or join us in the Reset Academy and let us get to know you and see what we can do to support you that way. But those are like game changers for inflammation, those 4 things.
Great. And then I think we're going to have to end with this question from Karen Wood. Mm-hmm. She's confused.
Okay.
You're not supposed to eat, but you can do 20 grams. So do you want to talk about the 2 different types of fast for the fast training? One is a water fast and one is autophagy fasting.
Okay, so Karen, let us know let me kind of say the rules of this fast training week and let me know if this helps. So I always give people 2 options during fast training week. One is whatever, I've come up with lots of different versions of fasting. This time around, we're doing autophagy fasting. Or you can do a 3 to 5 day water fast. So those are your 2 options. In autophagy fasting, again, you're going 17 hours without food. And when you do eat, you're going to keep your 20 grams, you're going to stay under 20 grams of protein. And 50 grams of net carbs. So when you do eat, but not in your fasting window. Does that make sense? With all these principles, remember that there's a food piece that you want to play a part in, not the water fast, but there's a food piece and there's a fasting piece. So when you're trying to build hormones, for those of you going through perimenopause and menopause, there is a food part of that you can use to build up progesterone, and there's a fasting part. If you're trying, like Keith is trying to heal a musculoskeletal injury, there's a way to manipulate the food that you're eating and then a fasting piece. Noelle wants to know more about ovarian cysts and how to bring that down. There's a food part of that and a fasting part of that. And you can take any, I forget who asked about the parasite. There's a food part, there's a fasting part. You can take any condition and you could say, what kind of fast am I gonna do to heal this, and what do I need to do with my macros? Next week we're doing autophagy fasting and we're bringing that protein down, and we're fasting for 20 hours. So I hope that helps. Let me know.
So there are 2 different options.
Yeah, 2 different options.
And in one, you're only fasting for 20 hours and then eating autophagy foods to a macro protocol anyway.
One of them you're only fasting for 17 hours.
17 hours.
And when you eat, you're keeping your protein under 20 grams. And we're going to put a little square in our community. In fact, Cardinal may have already put it over there, a little square explaining it. So, everybody learns differently. Some people are visual, some people like it written. So we try to grab it from both angles.
Great.
Okay, so there's our fast training week. There's autophagy fasting. Now next week, it's really important if you're engaging in this and you're not on Facebook in our Resetter group, it's really important that you stick to our community page, or if you're on Instagram, you can watch my stories, watch our posts on Instagram. Because I'm going to be putting information out all week on this. My goal with every fast training week is not only that you get an experience, but that I keep educating you. So the more you understand this, the more you stick around on my channel, the more you're going to be able to drive your own healthcare. So I will come live to you guys next Thursday at 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So know that if you have questions, make sure you hop on Thursday, and I'll stay on longer. Like I think today we maybe stayed on 40 minutes. I'll plan on staying on longer, closer to an hour, and get your questions answered. So if you're in the Resetter group on Facebook, I'll be going live on Tuesday. So stay tuned for the posts on that. But as always, I'm so excited you guys are fasting this time of year when everybody else is giving up on their plans and they're like, I'll deal with it in the new year. You're digging your heels in fasting. So please acknowledge that. Look in the mirror and understand that only you can give yourself this gift. So excited to be on this journey with you.
And it makes the feasting so much more fun.
Makes feasting amazing. It makes it guilt-free. So as always, I hope that helps.